My name is Sarah Chin, and this is the story of how I discovered that sometimes the people you trust the most, your own family, can be your greatest rivals, especially when business success is on the line. For a decade, I invested every ounce of energy into our family's modest tech company, turning it from a struggling repair shop into a thriving $50 million business. But success doesn't always unite people. Sometimes, it stirs up envy in those closest to you. It all began with a humble computer repair store tucked inside a nondescript strip mall. My father launched it 2 decades ago. It was his pride and his life's work, though it barely brought in enough to keep us afloat. Emma, my older sister, was always the star, top grades, an elite business school education, Dad's favorite. I was the quiet one. I stayed home, helping Dad run the shop while working toward my computer science degree at a local college. Sarah, you're wasting your talent here, Emma used to say during her visits. You should be doing something bigger. But I believed in that tiny store. While Emma buried herself in theory, I was building software and studying real-world problems that no textbook could teach. In my senior year of college, I created our first proprietary product, an intuitive, low-cost inventory management tool designed for small businesses. It wasn't flashy, but it worked. Dad didn't believe in it at first, but when neighborhood businesses started buying licenses, he changed his tune. "Well, maybe there's something to this," he said, his voice tinged with surprise and pride. Those words meant everything at the time. I didn't realize how fleeting they would be. Under my leadership, the company steadily grew. I put in long, grueling days, 14 hours, 7 days a week. While Emma climbed the ranks at a high-profile consulting firm in New York, I was laying the foundation of a real business. We transitioned from fixing computers to building software. Our clientele expanded, first across the region, then nationwide. Mom would visit sometimes, worried by how hard I was pushing myself. "Don't burn out, Sarah," she'd say gently, placing a warm meal on my desk. "You deserve more than just work." But I had a vision, and perhaps, deep down, a longing to prove I was just as worthy as Emma. By our 5th year, we crossed the $1 million mark in annual revenue. That's when Emma's interest in the company returned. She left her corporate job and came home. "I think it's time I take my place in the family business," she declared at dinner. "With my background, I can help elevate things even further." Dad lit up like a Christmas tree. "That's great, sweetheart. We could use your professional touch." I froze, fork mid-air. The company I had poured my life into was being handed over to Emma, just like that. Still, I held back my frustration and tried to cooperate. Emma was named co-CEO. Despite her complete lack of experience in tech, Dad insisted it would boost our image to have someone with her credentials up front. She took charge of branding and investor relations. I kept my head down, running development and operations. The next 5 years felt like a balancing act between substance and show. While I focused on building innovative software and nurturing our client base, Emma stepped into the spotlight, giving TED-style talks, winning awards, and posing as a tech visionary. And somehow, she was always credited for the work that my team and I had done. I was the one who built our revenue from the ground up. Year after year, it grew until we were bringing in $50 million annually. But with that growth came growing tension. Emma, once uninterested, now took every opportunity to edge me out, canceling meetings without telling me, making executive decisions in my absence, and slowly maneuvering me out of the company I had built. Then came Dad's 60th birthday. That was the day everything changed. The lavish party was Emma's idea. Naturally, she booked the most extravagant ballroom in the city and sent invitations to every major client, partner, and investor. It felt less like a birthday and more like a corporate summit, but that was Emma. Everything was calculated, curated, and self-serving. I arrived early, dressed simply in black, ready to help with setup. Emma glanced at me and sneered. "Really, Sarah? You couldn't dress like you actually matter?" she whispered. I said nothing and kept greeting guests as they flowed in. She floated around the room with rehearsed charm, while I stayed in the background, ensuring the evening didn't fall apart. Then came the moment. Emma clinked her glass and rose to speak. I assumed she would give a heartfelt toast to our father, maybe even acknowledge our family journey. But what she delivered was a blow masked as a business announcement. As we gathered to celebrate our father's 60th, she began, her voice smooth and steady. It's also a perfect moment to talk about the future of Chin Technologies. After thorough discussion with the board, we've agreed that it's time for unified leadership to take us forward. My stomach sank. Board? What board meetings? I hadn't been invited to any. For too long. We've been slowed down by outdated strategies and internal resistance, she continued, turning her gaze toward me. So effective immediately. I will be stepping in as the sole CEO. A ripple of murmurs surged through the room. I sat there, stunned, as Emma peeled away my legacy with a smile on her face. Some people are simply better suited for background roles, she added, the sweetness in her tone curdling into venom. Sarah has done a passable job keeping our systems intact, but we need someone who can lead, innovate, compete. I looked at Dad, willing him to intervene. He didn't, he just nodded, beaming with pride, as if he hadn't just watched his youngest daughter be publicly betrayed. Mom sat still, staring at her untouched plate, her hands trembling. And then came the final blow. You're obsolete, Sarah. You lack the vision, the education, the polish. You're a relic of where we were, not where we're going. It's time to move on, gracefully. The silence that followed was crushing. All eyes turned to me, some filled with pity, others with smug satisfaction. But I didn't give them the spectacle they expected. I stood, slowly, my chair scraping loudly against the marble floor. The sound was sharp and final. Then I walked to Dad's table, reached into my purse, and placed a small, wrapped gift in front of him. Happy birthday, Dad, I said softly. And without looking back, I walked out, leaving behind the noise, the stares, the betrayal. That night, I sat alone in my home office, surrounded by framed patents, software awards, and blueprints with my name etched into every page. Emma thought she had one, but she had made one fatal mistake. She underestimated me. As I powered on my laptop and began typing, a slow smile formed. Tomorrow would be a reckoning. Because in business, being underestimated is the greatest advantage, and I was about to show them all exactly how worthless I wasn't. I truly was. The next morning arrived clear and still, deceptively calm, like the eye of a storm. I got to the office before sunrise, unlocked the building myself, and waited. At exactly 9 a.m., Emma walked in like she owned the place, Dad at her side, both glowing with self-satisfaction. They didn't know their victory lap was about to crash into a wall. Emma's heels clicked sharply on the marble floor as she spotted me. Sarah, she said, her tone clipped and incredulous. I figured you'd have the sense to disappear after last night. I smiled. I had sent an email at 3 a.m. to every client, partner, and employee of Chin Technologies. The fallout was already in motion. Just tying up a few loose ends, I said smoothly. But since you're here, maybe we should discuss the company's future. There's nothing to discuss, Dad cut in, voice cold and resolute. Emma is in charge now. The board has approved everything. Ah yes, the mysterious board, I said, tapping my tablet. Let's talk about that. Because while Emma was busy curating her public image, I was quietly building the foundation of this company, and I think you've both forgotten how it was built. I walked to the conference screen and connected my tablet. The main display lit up with documents and legal filings. First, let's review ownership. When we incorporated, Dad split the shares, 25% to Emma, 25% to me, and he retained 50%. But 3 years ago, when we needed capital for our expansion, Dad sold me 6% of his holdings. I turned to him, eyebrows raised. You remember, Dad? You were too busy attending Emma's keynote speech that day to review the deal, so you signed the transfer without looking. Their faces paled in unison. Emma's fingers tightened on the table's edge. That can't be true, she breathed. Dad wouldn't. He did, I said, flipping to the signed agreement, which means I now hold 51%, a controlling share. Silence fell like a dropped curtain. But that's not even the best part, I went on, swiping to a new document. Let's talk intellectual property. The software that generates 80% of our revenue? It doesn't belong to Chin Technologies. It belongs to Innovate Solutions LLC, my company. Chen merely licenses it. I glanced at my watch. And that licensing agreement? Expired 10 minutes ago. Dad sank into a chair, his expression blank as realization hit. The renewal forms, he muttered. Last week, the ones you gave me. The ones you didn't read, I confirmed. You set them aside to help Emma pick out party decor, I believe. Emma's fury boiled over. You manipulative little. Careful, I cut in, voice steady. You might want to listen before you lose your temper completely. While Emma was basking in the glow of her big announcement, I had been busy, very busy. You see, most of our major clients have personal loyalty clauses. They came to Chin Technologies for me, my experience, my innovation. Last night, I sent them all a courtesy email, letting them know I'd be stepping away. I turned the screen again, revealing dozens of email replies, termination confirmations, support messages, NDA requests for future collaboration. And our top engineers? They were never on Chen's payroll. They work for Innovate Solutions. Most of them have already accepted offers to join me full-time. Outside the glass walls, employees were gathered in hushed clusters, checking their phones. You could feel the ripple spreading, like a fuse had been lit beneath the entire office. Emma scrambled for her phone, her expression twisting as reality crashed into her carefully constructed image. You can't do this, she choked. You're destroying everything. No, I replied coolly. I'm reclaiming it. I stepped forward, just close enough to let the weight of the moment settle between us. You tried to erase me, replace me, but this company was built with my hands, my code, my vision, and today, you both learned the first rule of business. I leaned in. Don't mistake silence for weakness.